Hey, Stefan, you are on live. How are you?
Hello. Nice to be here again.
Great. So, Stefan, just maybe a quick introduction of yourself and maybe beyond quality, and then we can start with maybe presenting the topic of cybersecurity for MDR. So, to try to make people understand what are the expectations from the notified bodies, and then help them, if I can say, to answer the question that they have there.
Sure. Hello, I'm Stefan Bolleininger, founder and consultant at Beyond Quality. And I dedicated nearly all of my working life to fulfill requests of notified bodies and legal manufacturers. And therefore, we had a lot of that kinds of we are in the middle of the rumble between the legal manufacturer as well as the guys from notified bodies as well from the authorities. And that I want to share a bit of the things, what's their current thinking, what we see during the audits, during technical file assessments, where they want to go. And I have to admit, it never is all of the truth, but I will truthfully tell you what we experience.
Exactly.
But different people have different interests, different informations, and different states. So that's just what I'm giving you from my side.
Exactly. And we have to say that an audit is a kind of a human to human. So it means that anybody has different expectation. Some will be more tough in some topics, some more tough in other topics. And we had discussed already with Stefan about audits. So we had an episode where we talk about the 100 audits that you have, 100 days of audit that you have made and experience out of it also. So you are used to make those kind of audits. So it's something that I hope will be really helpful for all the audience of today. Just seeing that more people are joining. So Ilona from Czech Republic, it's 11 p.m. in Japan. Okay, thank you, Dr. Marwan. We have Mohammed from Switzerland. We have Christian. We have Sophie from England. We have Irfan from Dubai. So thank you everybody for being here, and I'm really hoping that you'll get a lot of value from this. So Stefan, I will let you make your presentation, and then we can start from there. And as I said, don't hesitate, the one that are in the audience, to ask your questions during the presentation, and I will pick that and ask Stefan about it. So thank you. Stefan, it's yours.
Hello. Normally I use a white presentation, but for the cases of cybersecurity, always use a black one. Why a black one? Because in that case, I need to go on the dark side of the world. When you look about all the topics around here, hey, a few of them are German specific, few of them are US, but we talk about MDR. I will go later on why I did that, as well as what happens really on our cases. And our most thing is the MDR guidance. Well, for most things, I only have this important thing. The book of pain, or in short, MDR. So in what we need to talk about is what is the expressions of an auditor when you go to a company, when they go to an legal manufacturer. And then they think about a lot of crazy stuff and good stuff. In Germany, hey, we are a bit strange, because we have a specific one for digital health applications, which is a reimbursement topic only. But that's also something I want to give you as an information, because that might be of your interest. Reimbursement is always a great thing. So, okay, that's my foundation. US, Europe, Germany, and whatever other things are coming in. Also, what I really like, for example, are South Korea, because there is a very great checklist already available from the authority side, which helps hugely in the legal manufacturer side. So, but what is really the expectation? Well, the notified body tells you, follow MDR, follow MDCG. That's the expectation. And they implement the expectations in different ways. We have lots of different notified bodies. For example, some of them have created their own checklist for specifically cybersecurity. Others have created one together with I need to say that, a very honorable other consulting company. So they have made a great checklist, which is very useful and can help the manufacturer a lot to utilize that. But some other notified parties have created their own one. So yes, think about what will you be in your best interest with the notified body, and ask them if they have a specific one you need to fill for them to help them in the best possible way. But if they don't say, if they say, no, we don't have one, or it's up to the manufacturer, then goes away and say, okay, I just follow MDRCG 2019-16, because that is then the simplest thing. You just follow it line by line. Nicely, and that's a good thing. On what you can understand from is that this one is written with lots of images. So that's a nice thing. It has lots of images, which helps you a lot to understand it. And what does the notified party do? They check exactly that way. So utilize it, and the notified parties expects you to have, for each of that green blocks on that image, to have at least one section split it up. So what do I need to do? I just split in these blocks into separate areas and say, okay, how do I handle cybersecurity and all of that stuff? For example, in residual risk. Oh, okay, so that leads me to risk management. That means I need to have risk management included in my cybersecurity. Good thing. Note it down and go to the next one. Verification, validation. Yes, simple thing. What kind of tests do I have for the cybersecurity specifically? And this screen tells you a lot about what is a true expectation. Even if there are greater checklists available, that's the foundation. That is the real basis you need to and you want to go. And rest of that, what you can think about in the left bottom corner, informations for user instructions and labels. Yeah. You know, from risk management, labels and information for users not that good. However, it's valuable to help them. What does that mean? For cybersecurity in specific, I would request from manufacturer, if you have a software, it shall be installed somewhere, then I have a specification, which ports shall I use? And therefore, the MDRCG has been getting into more of the details. It started up with this kind of schematic, and then they went it more down, and I'm sure I have a few of the things which I have found pretty useful. And then we go to this list of crazy stuff, what they all expect. That's particular what is written in EU MDR and also in the MDRCG. However, no one can really fulfill it because it's just interlinking of articles. Does not make sense. Good thing, the MDRCG also created that in a different other view. And that view now is way more useful. So look into it and say, okay, what is my product right now? Is it pre-market? If it's post-market, you see, pre-market, post-market. Now it gets split up in the net and says, okay, these are extremely informative points, and I need to fill for each of that sections. I need to fill at least one topic. Okay, so you had the expectation from the first slide. Now you have the expectation from that slide, and that means you know what you need to fill. It's pretty crazy because it's written in the MDRCG what exactly you need to do. Not exactly on how you can fulfill it, but what is their expectation. And that's in a very easy way. The only thing where I can find that is a clinical evaluation assessment report, where they have written into details what they want and how you can fulfill it. But there's a problem. When you go about cybersecurity, everyone can talk about it. Each auditor can tell you a bit about cybersecurity because they utilize normal life a computer and think firewall, or if they have installed an antivirus, that's already cybersecurity. And if an auditor has given you this kind of information, well, you know how to handle them exactly with that checklist. So they cannot do more. And in the case they ask you a specific or a clear question about an area in your cybersecurity strategy, then they will go more into that details about it. And that's what we also want. So first thing is, if you know about that guidance document, that's good for you, because that means you can read it and then you should forget it. You utilize it as a check. Then read the FDA documentation. It's way nicer. Then go back to the Book of Pain. Read that again. And then go back to the FDA documentation. take all that knowledge together and use a NIST approach. Because the National Institute for Standardization and Techniques has made a very great approach how to handle cybersecurity topics. And this is then what is implemented also in the MDCG and what is expected from the auditors. And I tell you now how you can fulfill it and what you can expect from auditor. An auditor will look into most things at 5 pretty important things. What is your asset? How do you identify threats? How you can detect issues? How do you want to respond to it? And what is your safety place? So safety at the end of it. So that is what you need to go. Look at your assets. What do you want to save? What is important for you? When you look into downwards into the MDCG guidance, you will find a lot of stuff. There's a nice annex including all that crazy identifications. Then how to identify issues on it and what can the system do to detect errors? Or is there a mitigational issue? Is there a mitigation to that issue? How can you mitigate? Maybe there is an opportunity that your system or a product or a software already detects by itself what is the real issue. Maybe yes, maybe no. And that's something you need to combine together and place it into your documentation. So when I have an audit, when I'm auditor or when I'm audited, I take always the same way. I have 4 levels where I want to go. The first one's, do I have something about cybersecurity? Second one is, how is my risk management controlled by it? The third one is, it's part of my software development procedure. What is part of my procedure in that? And the fourth one, post-market surveillance. How do I create post-market surveillance on it? And actually, the thing is not that hard to track on. Because first, as you know, I've already showed you, in my cybersecurity strategy, I expect as an auditor, and also my notified bodies auditor I work with, also expect to set 5 areas. What's your asset? How you identify threats? How can the system detect it? How can you respond to it? And is there a safety case to recover? Yeah. And that is all some stuff which can be done by the risk management in case of security breaches. That's your identifying threat. So threat is not a harm. It's not a hazard. However, you should put it into your risk management. So that's the simplest thing, because risk management is your overall super strategy about handling all that stuff. Also, harm and threats can be placed in. Then is the next point. You go on to the software points, which are then the exact places where you have the documentation about what is you need to do, mitigation as well as this is my issue. Therefore, you go to the vulnerable software. You take terms about off-the-shelf software, everything you buy in, soup software, all that stuff, as well as how do you do your maintenance. Yeah, with the maintenance stuff, you already go into the post-market surveillance as well. And therefore, it's connected. And then it goes back and you take your respondent coverage. So you see that this traces should be available. And that's something an auditor will check. An auditor will check in the audit, do you have a trace from your risk management to what do you want to have in the cybersecurity? And hey, let's face it, at the end of the day, you need to have at least, well, in the most even if your software does not do really anything, but it's just connectable or just transfer some kind of data to your device, you need to have at least 2 or 3 lines in the risk management about talking about cybersecurity. If you use software or have an interconnected system, you will have at least those 2 or 3 lines. That's a best minimum. You cannot go below it. If your software connects and does more, then you need to implement more features as well, more mitigations as well as more threats as well, more risks. And therefore, you have more things to do, to be handled in your overall strategy, and also more market surveillance and also more maintenance on the software, because most softwares are utilizing OTS software as well. And these are parts of your maintenance planning. So in that cases, what I as an auditor look for is, okay, do you have a clear linkage about my risk to my OTS software? Is each OTS software package somehow connected to my threats? If yes, great. If no, I find an issue. And that's what a notified body auditor can do as well. And that's simple. And then they check about what is your complete connecting. How I do it? Normally, I create one document for specifically telling all that stuff together in the cybersecurity strategy and interlinking it then to risk, software, and the market surveillance to make sure I get the complete bunch together and have everything connected in the safest and best possible way. So, nicely, I can tell you this. I've written that image, I don't know, 2015, something like that. It's still valid, still completely valid, but it's old. When I look now into the next features and next situations, I looked into the MDCG guidance, and they told me exactly the same. It's not me as have written it, no. But I have MDCG utilizes the same experiences, and their auditors see it in the same way to say, okay, risk management is possible. If you find in the MDCG guidance that kind of image, it just tells you perform risk management. That's good. On the other hand, it also gives you an implementation about how a market surveillance or the health IT life cycle has to be done and what's the maintenance cycle. And that's something which is also pretty important to include in all of your documentation. And that's something which can be checked. Then utilize that information, take a deep breath now about what I do and what I expect as an auditor and what my auditors expect from me. And then now read the MDCG guidance again. Look again how the guidance is used and what is really included. And then you come back to two very important steps. Come back to risk management, to plan your threats, to plan your risk assessments, to handle the controls completely. Look against with all the stuff about the residual risks and the benefits and what happens with your device in case of threats. And then you go back to the complete release cycle and the information about post-market surveillance. And then it gives you the additional cycle, and that's important information. As an auditor, I check for each of the nice little circles, do I have sufficient information to mark one risk or one threat or one issue to each of that steps is set for me conclusively bounded. That's one thing we can go forward, and the rest is super easy to fulfill because that's monitoring that I can check in the next post-market surveillance. And what means that as an auditor, I will check is in one of the cases for post-market surveillance or my post-market surveillance plan, is there a link to my software procedures? Is there a link to my cybersecurity? And do I have a link to OTS software? I will utilize this kind of linkage to make sure I can get sufficient information on it, and I will make sure that you have a procedure around how the post-market surveillance has been bound to cybersecurity. So see it in the both ways. First way, the pre-market stuff. Look into it, what the MDCG already has given you as an information, and the post-market stuff as well. Do you have the post-market surveillance plan, or how your planning is performed, combined with cybersecurity? So that is one of the main things given by the MDCG guidance. The other one is, which is think it's pretty cool and really well done. When you look, for example, into the mitigation methods, there is a possibility to say, hey, your device is secure by design. That's given also in the MDCG guidance in the chapter 3.1. You can find it really included in it as well. And that's something which is super important. The mapping of the IT security requirements to NIS directive, because this one gives you clear answers. So look into the Annex 1, it's the chapter 7 of the MDCG, and therefore you get really valuable information and a little checklist. Okay, dealing back with the information we are talking about for today, I will give you exactly this kind of, okay, let's go back This one is the most important step. So think about cybersecurity in form of a little checklist. Utilize the one you get from the notified body auditors, or you have at hand by yourself, or utilize the one from a different other companies. So make sure you have a security design based on your principles. Make sure your risk management is including risks from cybersecurity. You have at least 2 or 3 risks need to be included, or threats need to be included. Else it won't work. And else I can tell you, the notified party will not accept it at all. Because that's something super simple to check. Each notified party auditor can count numbers. Each one can. So you don't have all the information maybe into the software skills from each technical file assessor. However, they can see if there's at least a few lines of cybersecurity included. That's super simple. And then watch out where you can find the word cybersecurity. As you know, EU MDR requires you to have your documentation easily searchable. In that cases, use the search function once you're finished and search for cybersecurity, security at all, and all that stuff, and find if you can combine each step. Then you're on the right track. However, then comes one of the biggest things. Then you have documented sufficiently information. However, on the end, documentation is only one step. You need to conclude with that. What is the information you get out? And that is what I try to, what I try to give you with this kind of slide to show you, okay, you need to have a full traceable linkage. Many companies, like I also as an auditor, prefer that I have a specific document dealing about cybersecurity and dealing with all that stuff to make it easy for me to understand. It helps you also for maintaining it. But it is an additional document you need to create. Same is for additional documentation you need to have for cybersecurity if you use this checklist. But it's part of the procedure. And one pretty tricky thing, whilst safety, in case of electrical safety, is static, security is never static. So you will have way more information about the maintenance and the market surveillance to be done than on the static safety point. Therefore, ensure that you have a very short cycle about how to maintain your software in complete with the risk management system. Look at that very carefully. As an auditor, I will check, is there a procedure how to perform the maintenance correctly during the software development procedure and how it is utilizing the risk assessments for specific cybersecurity threats. Make sure you have that, and that's part also of the check your notified body auditor can do quite easily on your software. Well, once you have done that, you will find out that you will need to go on to one step about respond and recover, and also make sure your system is secure enough. That is something which will need to be, how can I say? That is something it needs to be balanced now against what kind of measures you are applying. One is a secure design. That's one step. However, then after that, you will get into loads of test scenarios and test possibilities, like penetration tests or randomized login tests. There's a huge bunch of it, but you need to be very precise. What is your asset? And what is your issue you will have? What is your threat? And that's something what I can check in the risk and the security breach analysis. What is your specific topic to be concluded with? And also what is the topic to go into it? And what is the safety measure? For example, if you have a system which is used within a hospital or in a data center or something else, one of your measures will be about the compliance, for example, with 27071. Yes, well, it does not help you. It does not help you because that just helps you to make data protection. But you need security. Security is a complete different thing. That's something I found a lot as an auditor. So my manufacturer I audited tells me, yeah, we have a data set. We are using a hoster which is 20001 compliant. I say, okay, that's fine. So the data is then protected. Great. But is the data then also secure? So the question is, yeah, what's the difference between protection and security? Security protection is I don't give it away or I make sure that I have a specific bound on it. But the security on the hoster does not help you for making your, or the protection on the hoster does not make your secure device. And therefore, that's something which you need to be tackled specifically. There are lots of companies which make security analysis for your device or for your service. Look at them, how they can go forward. Take a few days with them together to make sure your system is robust against security breaches. Helps you a lot. Most things are not that expensive and can help you a lot about it. But that's something I watch out if I'm an auditor and everyone tells me, okay, we did everything by 20001. Yes, then the data is protected. However, if I have a breach in my software or my software has an open gate, then you can still apply it. Then you can still get onto that kind of data. And therefore, it does not help me. And that's something which is pretty important. Yeah.
I think yeah, this answered also some maybe of the questions that were already on the chat about 27001. One thing that I want maybe to confirm for the people that are listening here, are we talking here only about software like an application or things that we are using as a software as a medical device only? Or are we talking also about infusion pumps that are maybe connected to the network on the hospital or those kind of elements? So is it covering everything or just maybe software as medical devices?
No, it's not only specific for software as a medical device. It's also it works with the same schematic on infusion pumps, on patient monitors, or whatever kind of electronic devices with infrastructure you're utilizing. It's also working on the hospital information system. But the thing is, it is depending on the extent of what you need to secure. And that is something which is pretty important. And that's the point of the asset. What is my asset I want to protect? What is the information about how can I, or what do I need to protect? It's if I utilize a pacemaker with it and my protection is weak, has a very higher problem is when I only have a data system for on one physician's location. Can be hacked, yes. However, what happens then? What is the impact on it? And that impact is super important. And that's something you need to find out during your threat and risk analysis or your asset analysis, however you want to call it. That is something I want as an auditor to see, that you are aware what can be your problem. That's exactly the first thing most in a checklist.
Yeah. We had just a few questions. So just one question, maybe just to clarify for people. So there are Maxim Perevozov, who's asked, is SAMD equal to GXP? So what would you answer to that? I mean, one is the product, another is a kind of system. So it's not, or practice is good practices. So it's not really the same.
Exactly. So software as a medical device is a software as a medical device. So it's a product, whilst GXP is just a procedure. Therefore, it is not in the same area. However, GXP contains a few of the good information practice, for example, contains a few things about which are valuable to be used. However, not in all the topics.
Exactly, yeah. We had also Michael that provided some kind of link to cybersecurity in hospitals. So I think all what we are talking about for medical devices, security, safety, etc., it's mainly because when it will be used in hospitals or used by users, etc., they will plug in maybe on their network activity or on their Wi-Fi, on their things. So it means that we have to protect those devices against some attacks that coming from on those networks. So if those networks are not well protected, so then they can arrive directly to the device, and then we have to have another layer of protection with the device. So mainly this is also the thing here that we are trying to do with protecting the device. Is not the first layer. Maybe the first layer is before.
Right. And the funny thing is that we need to protect the devices from the attack, and therefore you need to know what can be utilized from your side. So what can be done for also if your device can attack other devices. So your device can be the entry point for other for infecting other devices. That's also a pretty common step, and therefore you need to also look out, okay, once they're in, how they can they go out? And that's something which sometimes has been forgotten during the procedures.
Exactly. We had also, if I remember, we discussed also on cybersecurity for when you are building a device, there are people that are putting some kind of inputs and outputs on the device, where some other are saying, okay, I don't need those inputs. I just need them to answer my question. So is it working? What is the battery inside? What is this? But it's not like I'm providing some input so that I can change something. So you have also to evaluate the risks of defining what are the inputs information or the action that can arrive on the device, and if it's really needed. Maybe it's not needed at all. So then you can remove a lot of cybersecurity issues just by not allowing any function to enter the device, maybe to ask questions, but not to enter the device. It's also something that a lot of people were saying.
Right. If you can block input and output, that's the best thing. Because if something is really closed, then it is closed. That helps a lot and makes you to get less threats and better confirmations about all the topics. Also about the topics on how to handle and how to respond to it. If it's just blocked and will be dropped, that's also a very good step. Yeah, exactly. That's the first thing, to make sure all the ports which are unnecessary are closed.
Exactly. So it's more design part.
Yeah.
We talked also about that. So ISO 27001. So just maybe a question. So yes, we hear a lot about, for example, standards like IEC 62304, IEC 62366 for the usability, ISO 27001, etc. So it's more like this package. We say, oh, if we have that, we are safe. Is there a kind of an ISO for cybersecurity? I heard about the 60601 something, but is there something specific, or 80601? I can't remember.
There's a 60601-4-3 which helps you, but
okay,
that's something the auditor utilizes to justify what is your extent. You will still need to go to EU MDR and fulfill the topics of GDPR, and just okay, I did that and utilize that standard will not work. You need to make sure that you have a clear advice on that standard. Just helps you to proceed with your information. It does not help you to justify all your things you want to do or not do. Start with threat and risk analysis. That's the biggest thing you need to do, and that fills 80% of your checklist.
Okay. We had also the question here from Michael again. So to what extent meeting the cybersecurity for EU MDR will help you also to meet the other like GDPR, etc., etc.?
Super great point. That's a super great point, because when you look at the NIS, that is specifically what the MDCG covered with the NX. So with Chapter 7, I think it was NX 1. Not 100% sure, but it was Chapter 7. And there is an extreme direct interrelation, and that's good. That because in that case the MDCG made a step forward and deals with more information about what can be done correctly and how they can go forward. That's not that they stepped up and said, okay, I only care about my medical device area, but they went into more details about other things. And that is what I think pretty great. However, with the GDPR topic,
it's another system here, GDPR. It has nothing to do with cybersecurity, I think.
It's not really.
No.
But really, GDPR is, well, a bit touched by MDCG and a bit touched by MDR, and tells you, yes, you need to follow it, but that's it. They do not go more into other details. They just tell you, okay, there is a relation that should be, when I remember, it was the chapter 6 of the MDCG guidance, which tells about what happens for GDPR and what is relevant for GDPR. However, the MDR and the GDPR are completely different stocks. So in that cases,
yeah, I mean, GDPR is the risk. For example, the link between GDPR and cybersecurity can be the fact that you are storing in your software or in your databases some patient information, data like that, and then there is a breach, and then this is leaking. So mainly the point is also to say, first, do you have the rights to store those information within your system? Did you get the authorization, the consent from those people? And then this is the GDPR. The breaching is more the cybersecurity. So it's not really, it's linked because there can be an issue on that, but it's not really linked in terms of regulation specifically.
Yeah, and in addition, GDPR deals more about the organization and how the organization proceeds with information instead of cybersecurity, which deals with how a device deals, or in our cases now, a software or a physical device, how that is dealing with information. So GDPR is more organizational topics.
Exactly.
However, there's one point. The MDCG requires you to fulfill also GDPR. Yes. Okay. It tells you follow the law.
Yeah. We have Induja that is asking, so is this linked? I mean, what we are talking about cybersecurity, is it linked also to artificial intelligence and learning models? So like what we are doing in AI?
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
A medical device is a medical device. It's a medical device. It does not deal if it's a physical, if it's a software, it's a medical device, or if it's an AI algorithm. A medical device is a medical device.
The point here is also that if there is a cybersecurity breach, you can maybe change your AI model, and then all the results that you will get at the end will be completely wrong. So maybe this is maybe also the idea that we have to think about that. So just Leah that is saying mainly that they just had an attack in an hospital in Israel. Ooh. So you see that it exists. It's not something that we are thinking, oh, maybe it will arrive, but it's really existing here.
No worry, to my knowledge, in Germany, it happens every month.
Okay. So same question here from that before. So maybe the question was more about that, SAMD and GXP. So should SAMD follow the GXP guidance? I mean, here GXP can be everything and anything. So mainly we can have good clinical practices, good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices. I mean, it's all the GXP guidelines, which depends then on what is used really the device for. But mainly the EU MDR, I think, is mainly the one that you have to look at for any SAMD here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In general, you should follow GXP because GXP is a very good procedure. But in case EU MDR requires you to do a different one, then just use a different one. So except, for example, in case you have a specific guidance already, that's also part of good X practice.
Yeah. Here, an interesting thing again that Michaela is saying. So here we talked a lot about protecting the device against an attack. But here, Michael says also we have to protect the hospital's network. So if we can ensure the network of the hospital through a device, so it's also something that we have to protect against that. So is this also something that they will check during an audit, for example?
Yes and no. They don't check if you protect the network based on your device, but they check if you have protected your device. Because if you have protected your device, it is not required for you as a manufacturer to flip around all the open topics and also open gaps to the next system. But you need to ensure that no one comes into your device. So by that, it also ensures your device against the network. The network against your device.
Okay. Another interesting one, which is Oslem that is asking, we are, as you've said, we are using maybe some penetration tests, etc., and we are using those companies that are doing that. And I know that each time I tape on LinkedIn some kind of thing about cybersecurity, I have tons of companies that join and say, oh, we can help you for your cybersecurity thing. We can do the test, etc. So it's like everywhere. Is there some kind of, maybe or maybe no, but is there some kind of good practice to when you select those kind of service providers to say, this one I can trust because he has maybe a certain label or a certain certification, and this one I cannot trust because he has nothing? So is there some rules here? Or
an easy one. I ask them about 62304 if they know the standard.
Okay.
Because then if they tell me, yeah, we can do cybersecurity analysis, that's good. And then I ask them, okay, do you know 62304? Since if they say yes, and I ask them about one chapter or something about 5.8 software release or something. If they know about the standards, and I know they know about medical devices, and then I can rely on them. But if they do a cybersecurity test for me, or cybersecurity services, it's only about reputation. There's no real label which I would go.
But I suppose, yeah, because cybersecurity is not only for medical devices. You can have some websites that are just hiring those companies to verify that we can hack them or not, some e-commerce website or whatever. So, and I suppose those companies that says, oh, we are specialized in cybersecurity, when somebody with maybe devices arrives, say, yeah, we are specialized in cybersecurity, we can do the same, what we are doing for e-commerce or whatever, we can do the same for your device, which is not really the truth. So I think it's an important point to ask this question, as you said.
Exactly. Yes and no. The technology or the techniques behind it, penetration tests and all the others, they are same. However, I don't trust a company which is not specifically in my domain I want it to be them. Because then they can help me way more. So if I have 5 requests from the companies, okay, we can do cybersecurity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I ask, hey, do you know about 62304? And they tell me yes. Then I know, okay, they have domain-specific knowledge as well as technology-specific knowledge, and that will be then my preferred one.
Okay, that's great. Interesting. Also, question from Anis Ben Brahim from Tunisia. So, software that are what about the recertification or certification of a software that was following a cyber attack? So is there any risk of losing your certification because after you had a cyber security attack? For me, if I ask me, I would say no, because you have to follow anything that is happening when you have a medical device issue. Vigilance reporting, CAPA action, put in place something. If you can show that you are solving the issue, and it's something also that is important here, we can have those issues and we have to update maybe the software to block, if I can say, those kind of cybersecurity. And something that people are asking me sometimes is say, yes, but if I make a change on my software, I am here during, for example, the transition period, the class 1 before and class 2A to B to 3 after, then I will now have to be MDR certified. I say no, because on the significant change guideline on the MDCG, it says specifically, if it is because of a threat, it means that your software is already bad. So will you keep it bad under MDD, or will you change it and make it better? So there is already a risk by using your software. So making the change will not make it a significant change per the regulation. It's just that you are correcting some kind of issues that you know, and anyway, the authorities will ask you to do that. So even if notified body is not asking that to you, the authorities will ask you, and it's clear on the MDCG guidance. It says that any cybersecurity issue is not a major significant change. So, I mean, you have to justify that, but...
Okay, yeah, but that's a perfect thing. You say it exactly right, because the bug is already there.
Yeah.
Because you already certified the bug. And then telling, yes, I have a cybersecurity issue, and I would need to recertify it prior to mitigating it would mean I need to have the software for a longer period of time, maybe on the market. That's not very trustworthy. Exactly. So in that cases, yeah, and also that guidance says that, yeah, the minor changes without impact to diagnosis therapy may also include cybersecurity enhancements. It does not enhance. It will. Then you need to justify it pretty good to say, hey, that's cybersecurity. My therapy or my diagnosis will not be changed by it. Well, it might be impacted. However, the benefit is really better than to change it instead of doing it not. You reduce risk, which already is introduced. So, for my cases, I would do it, and Actually, I don't think anyone will blame.
No, no one will blame. Anis had the same another question. So is so we have some cybersecurity like guidances that are published in the EU. Is it obliged to be followed, or there are some local standards in each country that should be followed in relation to cybersecurity? So I think it depends if we are talking about the EU market or other markets, because mainly in the EU, I suppose that the guidances are always guidances, but you have, if you don't follow them, it's not good.
Yeah, right. It is a non-binding recommendation until the auditor tells you otherwise.
Exactly. It's always the word guiding is sometimes misleading because it's a guide. It's not a binding by law document, etc. But to be honest, I mean, you have no other choice. It's the state of the art for what is happening with the regulation. So you have no really other choice than using them. But it's true that if you are in another country, like we talk about US or others, those guidances have no value in those countries. So you can go specifically for that, unless you are trying to sell your products in Europe. But they have no value in terms of against local laws.
Exactly. And that's what I tried to show in the presentation. If you follow that rules from my presentation previously, you will follow also the US guidances.
Exactly.
Because I don't like to make it specifically, yes, this is Europe, this is US, this is South Korea. I will do it in one package, and then I'll select it by the checklist to go to the relevant guidances. But the procedure implementing it should be all the same. If you want to utilize a checklist for cybersecurity, or a better selection of which method is applicable for which kind of software, use South Korea. That one is super. It tells you exactly for which kind of risk class of a software you need to do which kind of measurements. Super, or which kind of test also. Super.
That's great. And we have a last message from Joe Hag. So if you don't know Joe Hag from MDG Premium, so Joe Hag, thanks for being here. So you can also go to his channel. So he's also making some presentation like what we are doing today. I don't know what will be the topic of today, because I know you do that every Friday evening on the MDG Premium platform. But yeah, it's always interesting. You have always expert people that are helping you there. And you can also find some people for any of your topics that you are looking for. So thank you, Joe. Okay, so Stefan, do you have any other recommendation, or people? As I've said, this is a case-by-case topic. Also, it's not something that we can, within one presentation, to provide all the details about cybersecurity. It's a case-by-case topic. But then the idea here is that you have the high-level information, and if you have more questions, then you can reach out to Stefan or myself, and we can try to guide you and explain to you what needs to be done. And if we cannot do that, we know other people that can do it, so it's not like a big problem. I have another last question, if I can say, from Induja, which is European Regulation 2019-881, which I don't know what it is, applicable to medical device software as well. If yes, should software developers get CE certified under both regulation? Can you make a quick search? What is this one, 2019-881? Because I have no clue.
Actually,
you don't have it?
Since you don't know it, and I don't know it as well, I think it will not be applicable.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's something for software, but I don't know specifically. So we have to make a review of it specifically and check what is mentioned inside. But as you've seen, so this is really a case by case thing. So maybe this one standard or regulation is applicable for certain software or devices, but maybe not. So it depends also on each of them. Okay, Stefan. So is there anything else that we want to say about cybersecurity?
You do not need to care about cybersecurity if you do not have an active medical device.
Yeah, true. I mean, if it's it's an obvious one. Yeah. I imagine if you have a scalpel, don't care about cybersecurity. Okay, Stefan, it was really a pleasure to have you, and a pleasure to have all this audience that is really, I hope it was really helpful for them for organizing that. If they have any questions, so you can still go back on the ask us the questions. if not, you can still contact us separately, and then we can try to answer to you. This video is recorded, so it will be shown on the channel, on the YouTube channel next week. So don't hesitate to go there and to share that also with your colleagues. Okay, it was really a pleasure. So thank you very much, and yeah, talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.